All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, listening to the Pro Church Marketing Podcast. I'm Jono, and I got my good friend, Reverend Pastor, however you'd like me to refer to him. Bishop,
Yeah.
something. Doug Garasic up in northeastern Ohio, pastor of Rust City Church, and just doing some awesome things. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Doug, thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate it, man. Always good to see you.
100%. Thank you for everything you do. I started listening to your podcast like 2 years ago. And so it's an honor to be a part of it. You do a great job just bringing so much value to church in a relevant and real way. So, dude, hats off. Thanks for being who you are in the kingdom, man.
Dude, well, I appreciate you saying that, man. I appreciate you saying that. And so that's the thing. Yeah, just trying to I don't know a whole lot, but what I do know, I just like, hey, we'll just give it away, and Lord can do whatever he wants with it, and we'll just go from there. So a little bit about you, man. Tell us a little bit about the church, about the family. You've got an amazing wife. You got 3 awesome little boys. They're all redheaded boys, which I was a redhead growing up. So you were too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of copper red hair. But
yeah, I've got the red beard thing going on. But man, me and my wife, we had 5 kids, and every time we're like, all right, this one's going to be redheaded.
That's hilarious.
Never happened, man. So I showed my wife a picture of your family. She's like, seriously, how do you get 3?
That's hilarious. Well, every one of them, we were pretty clear we know they're mine. So if there's if we have any more kids that are not redheads, you better pray for my family, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna have some problems.
Yeah,
all of them. And fun fact about being a redhead is you have to have it on both sides genetically for it to work. So my wife has a family member who has red hair. If your wife has no one in her family who has red hair, it's impossible for the mutation to hit to create. Which this is. It's a mutation to be a redhead.
Oh, well, that makes some... Okay, I don't guess I've ever looked into it that deep, because, she's definitely... My wife is tan, like Cherokee Indian, like all that family. Yeah, so I guess, there was no hope.
Yeah, no hope. But pastoring, my wife and I, I started in ministry when I was 20 years old. I'm 40, so 2 decades. So I got hired, my first job, 20 years old, full-time youth pastor at a small evangelical church. It was a great learning experience. I was there 5 years, then worked at a really large mega church for a little while. And then we planted Rust City Church, which is in Youngstown, Ohio. It's a geographical center of the Rust Belt. So when you think of the Rust Belt, which used to be the steel industry, it all dried up and became the Rust Belt. It's from Minnesota down to West Virginia. When you look at it geographically, we are the dead center of it. And so we named our church Rust City Church, and planted in 2011. And so we're going into our 14th year, and man, it's just been awesome. Had campuses, had a Bible college. We've seen explosive growth, and then we've seen really dry, grinding growth too. So, both ends of the spectrum, where at one point you feel like everything you touch is Midas, and then at the next point, nothing you touch is right. And learning to find the beauty of Jesus through all of it has been a fun journey for us. And like, you said, we have 3 boys, and really just focus on the dad thing and being a good shepherd of what we've been responsible for. And man, things are just fortunately, and I really do say this, 2024 was a great year for us. And it was a year that felt like a couple years of build up to get to that year. So I would encourage, even if somebody's listening to this right now and you just feel like, man, a little hopeless, don't be afraid to keep sowing seed. The day that you sow isn't the day that you harvest. And we have had a beautiful year, and I'm looking forward to the next year, and continually to, as we say, help people find a new possible in our community.
Nice. Well, and I think one of the things that stood out, when talking to you, and I talked to a lot of pastors, and a lot of the calls that I get a lot of times are from the pastors that are just, man, they're struggling, just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. We need some help. We need some help reaching people. And there's a little bit of desperation there. And look, man, we've all been there. I didn't realize you were a youth pastor at 20. Same deal here, man. Right out of high school, I did an internship for a year, then went out on my own at 20 and stayed in youth ministry until 2020, when I stepped into this full time. So yeah, I had that 20-year youth ministry thing going for me. But yeah, even in that, man, there was lots of times just like, oh, gosh, man, like you said, everything turns to gold, man. I just could do no wrong. Everybody loves you. And then there's other years, it's just like, wow, this youth group is this church is falling apart, man. What, I have no business being so, but so there's that side of things, but there's also like with what we do with marketing for churches and helping churches be known in their community. I found that what I do doesn't really work all that well when there's a lot of other struggles going on, when there's not really growth, when there's not involvement in the community, when there's just a lot of those struggles and underlying issues, because we really need to come in and pour gas on the fire, so to speak, of what's already going on. And so what stood out about you guys is, and we're still kind of just still getting started working together, but what we love about your church is that it really is, it's easy because we're just pouring gas on the fire of what you guys have already got going on. And want to hear a little bit more about that, because I like the way you think. I like the way you think about reaching the community. You guys are doing some different things, and you've been intentional about it. You've thought it through. You're not just doing, I see a lot, and I hate picking on churches, and I'm going to shut my mouth here in a second, because I always feel like the guys like me, these marketing guys who used to be in ministry full time and on church staff, they come into this role and now they know everything. And we tend to sound condescending to pastors, like, oh my gosh, pastors, would you please, like we figured it all out. I don't ever want to be that guy. I don't want to sound like that. But there are a lot of churches, I see this on banners a lot, that say, hey, it's a different kind of church. We're a different kind of church. We're a different kind of church. And I'm like, not really.
Tell me how.
So, yeah. And the things that, and I get, look, yeah, they're excited. And I don't even know that you have to be all that different. I mean, like, being different, if that means you're being more effective, then yeah, be different. But anyway, you guys are thinking differently, getting creative. You've done some cool stuff. And so I want to hear about it. I'll shut my mouth now.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about some of it. We can also talk about some of our epic fails at a certain point too, and say, hey,
we need to hear those too.
Just remember, Babe Ruth hit the most amount of home runs and struck out the most. So that doesn't mean, like, sometimes when you're swinging for the fences. So let me say this. First, principle-wise for me, I look at it like this. Church is something that people are not thinking about until they're thinking about it. And the reason why they're thinking about it is because usually a crisis is happening in their life, a pain point, something is shaking up their regular routine where they start thinking, maybe I need to involve God in my life. Maybe I need to find a community that's loving and caring. And maybe they had a great story about that as a child, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know their story, but I know this. I have to be known before I'm ever needed. That's kind of like marketing 101, right? It's like known before you ever need it.
Well, dude, and I have to stop you right there, because you said that last time we talked, you were saying that, and I totally stole that. And we've got a whole Facebook ad campaign going on saying that phrase right now, because I thought it was so good.
That's all right. I'll bill you for that later. And somebody taught that to me. Somebody said to me, well, you got to be known before you ever need it. And it just was like a light bulb. And I was like, okay, God, we were church planners. That means, translation, we don't have any money. We had all young adults coming to our church plant. So it's like, man, we are broke as it can be. But here's what I know. We can still serve people, and we can still meet people where they are and not expect them to come to our church tomorrow. But what if a year from now, life tends to happen, them and their spouse are not doing well, something happens with a child, they lose a job, whatever life is, because life will happen eventually. And they're going to stop their regular routine. They're going to look up and say, maybe we need a church. Here's my desire, for the first thought to pop in their brain after that statement to be our church. And it's not because they think our preaching's that good, because I hate to tell you, it's not. and it's not because we have the best music on the planet, even though I think it's okay. At the end of the day, they see a church that's leaving their four walls and reaching out to help people tangibly where they are. Now, let me say this. I think the biggest criticism church gets, it's too selfish and too me focused. Like, come to our building, give us money, give us time, give us your talent, and you could be a part of our community. And so, yes, we need people to sow tithes and offerings so that we can exist. And yes, we need people with talent to do things. And yes, we need people to commit their time to it. But instead of leading with that, which sounds very selfish, why not show the community we meet tangible needs, we make an impact, we care, and we're also not just doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. Be a disruptor. Think about it. Okay, if everybody, and I don't want to pick on churches either, but I know we were going to give away backpacks. School year, new year, we're going to give away backpacks. And before we did it, we actually asked the school, if anyone does it. Like, what a novel idea. Let's actually ask them what their needs are instead of just assume that we can
Yeah.
solve this. We've seen another church on Instagram or Facebook or on somewhere do this. We're like, well, we should just do it too. And the school said, hey, you can if you want to. Just know our kids get 3 book bags a year from 3 different organizations like yours. Like, they're actually like trying to get rid of their book bags because they get so many of them given to them.
Yeah.
And I sat back and I said, we're not meeting the need. We're just trying to feel good about what we're doing. And so
Yeah.
in that moment, we said, okay, what could we do? We asked the school. And this school in particular did not have a parent teacher association, a PTA. And they said, our teachers are like left out here with no support, no care, nobody, like, it just seems like they're forgotten about. And man, did that just hit me right between the eyes. And so we put together a plan that involved a day that we'd come to the school, that we transformed their library into a teacher's spa day. We got masseuse chairs. We got partnered with local massage places that are like reputable places that came in. We got people to donate gift cards of the type of things that teachers would need. And we did a gift card tree. We did supplies. We had a room that they went into that they could take as many school supplies as they wanted based on all the stuff that we got donated. We partnered with local bakeries, brought in all these great pastries, all this beautiful stuff. And for a day, we wined and we dined these teachers in this school system, and we simply just told them, somebody sees you and somebody cares about you. You want to get into the heartbeat of a community, get teachers and faculty. And it wasn't just teachers. The bus drivers came in, the cafeteria workers came in. It was about 300 people got blessed on this spa day. And the ripple effects of their families make a difference in the school systems. And people talked about it. Now, we didn't do it for people to talk about it, but we are trying to be a disruptor and say, God, what is not being done that we can meet a need of that needs to be done?
Hmm.
And and I just think it's important to start thinking differently than what everyone else is doing. Take a shot. And that's just one example. I mean, we've done Black Friday outreaches where we have given Black Friday survival kits to all the employees of the local mall, which was 1,500 of them that got lattes from Starbucks. They got candies and anything that they could use that day, hand sanitizers, little moments for them, a stress ball.
Yeah.
And we literally dropped it off to every employee. They opened it up and it just said, from your friends at Russ City Church, survive Black Friday.
That's awesome.
It's
Pepper
fun.
spray,
Yeah,
paper.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. Man, you said that about like with the school supplies for the teachers. I know several teachers. My sister-in-law is one, and I'm amazed at how much stuff they have to buy themselves. I'm like,
Yes.
how much we pay in property tax to fund the schools, and they're still like out buying stuff themselves. That's crazy. So yeah, that's a need right there. That dude, yeah, they're not forgetting that.
And then let me say this, and you don't do it for the marketing of it, but you do want to let the right channels be aware of what you're doing and then let them be guided from there. So when we do a big Thanksgiving drive, right, we do a huge Thanksgiving. We call it give back before you kick back, which is like you kick back at Thanksgiving, relax, but give back before you do that. And we partner with the largest grocery chain in our community. We partner with about 5 or 6 key partners, and we pull together, we feed about 1,500 people, about 400 families their entire Thanksgiving opportunity. And it's a huge operation. It's very unique to us. We've been doing it for years. And it's like almost like Chick-fil-A for your whole Thanksgiving experience that we provide. 300 volunteers at it. It's a large event. My point is this. We send out a press release with the highlights to the local entities. It doesn't mean they're going to come, but we just make them aware of something we're doing, because if they are looking for a feel-good story, our church is. And I'm telling you, the times those get picked up, you definitely see, first of all, your church family gets those on Facebook and on different things. Those stories get dropped. You see the shares of that. People take a sense of pride in a good way of like, this is our church family, and look at the impact we're doing outside of. Let me say it like this, and you're in marketing, so I don't, I'm not going to hurt your feelings, but I just want to say it like this. We have to stop doing what I call monster truck marketing. Sunday, 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 come be a part of our great thing. Rah, 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 rah. You're screaming like, we're better, we're great. And it's like, show people you're better and great. And when they can share those type of stories, or those get in the actual physical papers, if you still have those in your community, whatever that looks like, or the local news picks them up and now that's on their online thing, those shares it gives your people permission to say, look, I'm not screaming at you, our church is better. I'm showing you the difference we're making. And
Yeah.
so you don't always get those stories, but when you do, it's a little gas to the fire you talked about. And then partnering with someone like you guys, it even adds more gas to that fire.
Yeah.
So I just get tired of this. I call it the monster truck advertising. And I just want to do meaningful stuff that makes a difference in our community.
Man, that's so good. I remember there was a sermon years ago from a guy that you'd know his name, but I won't say it now because he's caught a lot of flack. But something he said that was really good was that when people are looking to serve in the community, they don't go to the church anymore. They go to like the Red Cross.
Yeah.
They go to other places when they should be thinking, well, I want to give back to the community. Let me go find a church,
Yeah.
because churches should be the one leading the way. And so I just think, yeah, I think that even people who don't even, I don't know, they would say, I'm not religious. I don't like religion, whatever, even though we would say, well, it's not religion, it's relationship. But in
Yeah.
their mind, it's a religion. People, they don't like church, whatever. They'll come serve. They want to serve in the community. When I was a youth pastor, there's a town about 30 minutes away near Atlanta called Clarkston, Georgia, and there's a United Nations Refugee Relocation Administration office there. So for a while, it may still be, but in the early like 2010 to 2014, it was there were news stories about it being the most diverse square mile in the United States, because there was all these apartments that were overbuilt, and so they were just filling them up with refugees. So like you wanted to go on a mission trip, you just drove 30 minutes there. So we were going every Thursday playing playing kickball, playing volleyball. And man, just it was so cool doing just getting there out there with these kids. And we had teenagers that didn't believe in Jesus. They didn't know, they didn't really they didn't care about the church, but they wanted to come out there and minister to the refugees with us. We were going out there reading, we were doing family portraits because no one had pictures of their family. So we take printers out there and take family photos and get little Dollar Tree frames and give them a picture of their family. They'd get all dressed up. And so, and we had all these kids from like Beta Club who needed beta hours. And, we even had community service kids who needed community service. Like, yeah, come on, you can help. But man, you had kids getting saved because at the end we sat all these kids down and shared the gospel with them. And now you got these seniors in high school kind of listening in and jumping in, getting saved, getting baptized. And so serving is evangelistic, serving, but it just, it speaks to the community.
And not only that, serving changes the person who is serving. So, like, you want your church family to grow, get them engaged with their hands, get their hands dirty so their soul can be clean, right? Get them doing some things in the community that meets the felt needs of that community. And, you and I are on the same page when it comes to like marketing. This is obviously a marketing type podcast, right? And I don't play the short game, I play the long game. And so the long game is keep making a difference. Don't do an event and think, man, look at all those people that came to our event. I wonder what the attendance will be this Sunday. Like, that is the wrong question to ask. The right question was it meaningful? And did it leave people with a taste that God is good? God is good. Here's what I like to believe. I like to believe that even people who don't attend our church are grateful that we planted our church in this community. So they don't even attend, but they go, you know what? I'm grateful that out of all the communities out there, they're in our community. This is what a church should be. When you hear that, you've just won over a heart that is now more open to the gospel. And if we're playing for the other side of eternity in the long game, they might not even land in your church, but they might land in another church because you gave them a great impression of what a true gospel community could look like. And that includes loving and encouraging one another, but also being the hands and feet of Jesus outside of that. And so it changes the people that are a part of it as well. And I just think that's important to remember. It's the long game, not the short game. It is not about, I got to do this event and then people are going to come to my church. Or same for, I'm going to do this ad, I'm going to do this marketing and people are going to come directly to my church. You have to be known before you ever need it. And I just keep going back to that and realizing, like, in time, what you want is when people hear about your church from somebody, they go, I've heard about that place and I've always been interested in what they're doing. Man, there's no better open door than that, in my opinion. And so we fight really hard just to stay meaningful to the community around us with the different type of events that we do. And over time, we have made so many great mistakes that we have learned our niche. This is what we can say yes to, and this is what we have to say no to. And I just want to give anybody the encouragement of this. Learn how to say no 10 times before you say one yes, because you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're like, why did we say yes to this? This was a disaster. And you pray for grace, but you will crack a few eggs making an omelet. I mean, trying to crack the code of what you're gifted at, what your community needs, that takes time to crack that code, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that man. There's a lot of good stuff in what you just said there. Something that you said reminded me of a pastor that I served under. He used to always ask in staff meeting. He would say, "Hey, if our church disappeared this afternoon, would this community notice?" And I'm sure he stole that from somebody.
Yeah,
But I
I
was
did
like,
too.
I was like that. But man, that's a great question. Like, because and there's some weeks I was like, man, no, probably they wouldn't. But then there's sometimes it was like, yeah, they would. They would definitely notice. And we wanted to be a church that the community needed. Yeah, and like you said, whether they came to our church or not, we wanted them to know us. And then yeah, eventually they are going to have some where they need a church, and there is going to be that thing, whatever that thing is that draws them.
Yeah.
And yes, man, amen, amen, and amen. That it's not just about getting people here this next Sunday. I mean, I talk to a lot of pastors every day, just want more people. We just want more people in the seats on Sunday. And I get it. I get it. I've been there, like in the half full room, and you don't feel like you have critical mass, and it's hard to, get momentum, but that's not the point of everything. And I think, like you're saying, man, if we play the long game and build a church that people want to be a part of, like, I mean, like Rick Warren said, and this is like his thing was always like, healthy things grow. Like if it's healthy, it grows. And so if it's not growing, then there's something else going on, and it's
And Jono,
we
can I
figure out
say
what
this?
that is.
I used to do consulting years ago. I don't really anymore, but I used to consult churches and help them figure out like how to crack their code, right? And one of the things I would always challenge a church with right off the bat is if God brought 100 new people to your church this Sunday, I'm talking 100 new bodies walked in your door. Are your systems ready for that 100 new people? Is your kids department ready for whatever that looks like in kids ministry? Are your volunteers ready? Do you have the capacity for that? Like, oh, well, we have some seats. Besides a place for them to sit, would your systems break if 100 more people walked in the doors from last Sunday to this Sunday? And if it would break, you're not ready for the 100 more people. So get ready for that. Build
Yeah.
with your culture. Your growth will always find your culture. But if your growth is up here, like let's say I spent with you, let's say I called you tomorrow and said, dude, here's $100,000 for this month in marketing. Just make it rain. And you're like, all right. And it's crazy, right?
On it.
I might get an uptick, right? I might. But if my growth is here, but my culture is still here, growth will always find itself to culture. So I have got to put culture up here and trust that growth will find itself to culture. And so I tend to remind myself, like, hey, man, if my systems can't take 100 more people, I shouldn't ask for 100 more people. I should get
No,
good at what I got right now.
100%. I mean, same thing in my role, running this agency, ask ourselves that, we'll put out these ads like, hey, we can only take 10 more clients this month for these types of ads. And that sounds like a sales ploy. But when you think I have 3 client success managers, I have a limited team. We literally can only onboard the amount of time it takes to onboard. We literally can only take 8 or 10 every month. And so that there is a limitation, because if I took 20 and don't hire, I mean, I would need to hire and train and stuff to have 20 this month. And I know what my team can handle. And if you do go beyond the systems, then your churn rate, I mean, people start leaving because they're not getting what they needed,
Well,
and
if I could brag on you for a second, we went with you guys, and you were not my first marketing agency I've ever went with. We won't say their names here because we love them to death. But they one of the things that got me to say yes to you, because I like marketing personally. So I was excited to get to know you. I was listening to your podcast. I was trying to kick in the tires. And I remember, I think I DM'd you to see if you'd DM me back, because if you were too big time for that, I was going to move on. Like I had my own little tests. And one of them was I wanted to hear about your turn rate, because I got this realization that a lot of these other agencies, not trying to pick on them, but it's something they got to figure out, is like, you cannot overpromise and underdeliver for me. I will leave you. I will not continue to spend money with somebody who's going to overpromise and underdeliver. And what I appreciated about you is in many ways under promised and said, listen, because we want to over deliver. Like, this is where I can be and this is what we can do. And I can't promise the world here. And I just respected that so much more. It was such a breath of fresh air because it felt like you were not being as hand to mouth as so many others will be. Like, we just want you as a client and we'll figure it out. Versus like, no, this is what we can really take on. So I commend you for that. And I appreciate that. And I just encourage you to keep doing that for the rest of your guys' journey, because I think it's the winning model long term versus the how fast can I get as many clients as possible model.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate you saying that. And I think this runs exactly parallel with like what you're saying about the church. We just decided, yeah, we're not going to be the fastest growing church marketing agency out there. We're not going to be the biggest, but we're going to know our clients. We're going to get to know the churches. We're going to be a little bit pickier.
Yeah.
We're not going to be the cheapest. We're not trying to be the Dollar General of church marketing, but we're also not Neiman Marcus over here, not trying to be the most expensive. But we're going to do everything humanly possible to get the best results. And I want to make sure, and there's lots, again, not picking on anybody else, but I can't force anybody to show up at your church Sunday. I'm not going to promise you 20 first-time guests this week. I could get people to sign up online. I can get people to fill out a form, but getting them to show up is a whole different thing. That's on the church, and there's a lot of variables.
You want people to show up when they're ready to be a part of a church, not just to come to an event. Yeah. Anybody will try to come to an event one time. You really are looking for the right people to say, I'm looking for a church. I've been looking for a community. There's a gap in my soul that I'm looking for God to fill, and I'm hoping His church can help connect me to that thing. You don't just want somebody going, oh, this is a cool event. Let's just go to this event,
Right.
Because, there's an old statement out there. I don't know who came up with it, but how you get them is how you have to keep them. Right? So if I get you on gimmick, I got to keep you on gimmick. If I get you on giving you like free everything. When I became a youth pastor, dude, many, many moons ago, the guy before me, nice guy, he gave away free stuff every week. So like bicycles, laptops, whatever the things were at the time. I mean, this is before cell phones, bro. This is like pagers. Okay?
Oh yeah, no, I remember that stuff because all these big churches were giving away, well, at the time, Super Nintendo, whatever it was.
Whatever it was.
I couldn't afford that.
Yeah. And so I get there and literally he shows me the room he has in the building that's like all of his prizes. And he's like, yeah, so I spend most of my budget on just buying stuff to give to students. And literally, I mean, I'm 20 years old, but I'm like, am I missing something pretty major here? Because in my mind, you are basically buying students that come every week to get free stuff. So the moment you stop offering free stuff, they're going to stop coming to this youth ministry. He was doing steak nights. I mean, blowing cash. And one of my core values as a person is to be big on a budget. Big on a budget. Yeah. It's something I say all the time to my team. It's something I carry personally is do your best, but stay on budget. Don't burn down the budget just to always do things. Yeah. And because I think there's discipline and I have a whole reason why. But so I immediately stopped it and all those students left that were a part of it. And I basically rebuilt with a very small group of students. But in 5 years, we were 20x what it was that I took over. I mean, went from being, 20, 30 students to 200, 300 students. And that's not a brag. It's the fact that I want to say, like, we stopped making this all about you get stuff and we started making it about purpose and calling and Jesus and pursue Him, give your life to Him. Because I just said, He's so much better than a bicycle, dude. Like, I love a free bike. Don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with every once in a while giving away something. But man, I want to bring value to people, and out of bringing value to people, they're going to keep coming back for that. Not like, well, you gave me free stuff all the time. And so even like our midweek outreach, which is our huge food, we are the number one food distribution in our county. We don't expect those 1,000 people to all come to our church on a Sunday, even though they're in our parking lot. We want them to come when it's their soul is ready to be fed. We don't make it a condition like, well, you got to come to our Sunday morning service to get our free food. There's no better way to ruin your culture than by holding people hostage to things to come to your Sunday morning. But right. Be in a position that you do serve the community. So when they're finally ready and they're like, I have a God-sized void in my soul and I think church can help me. The next thing they say is, where should we go? And you want it to say your church name. And because that's going to be the place you're going to try. And then if you're really going to deliver what you promise, I think then we're going to have some traction here,
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, as I'm hearing you say that, I'm like, man, really what I need to ask every time that I'm on a, discovery call learning about a church is, I think I've just got to find out, like, how involved are you in your community?
Hmm.
Because I look at the churches that we're working with that are thriving versus the ones that are struggling, and our thing that we're doing, aren't working as well for them as they are, for churches that are involved in the community. And I think, there's lots of variables, but I think that is a big one, because that's just like, I mean, that's how they're known. That if you're involved in the community, they're known. And that's what I feel like part of our job is, to make sure that yes, again, I can't promise they're going to show up to church this
Yeah.
week. They may. It may be a year. I don't know. But I'm going to make darn sure that if they're in the grocery store and someone says, "Hey, have you ever heard of Rust City Church?" They're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I see y'all stuff everywhere." Like, I want them to be almost annoyed by,
Mhm.
how much they see your stuff, much like
And listen,
pastors are my Facebook ads.
I love your Facebook ads. I love them. It shows you know what you're doing. Let me tell you that, because you know how to dial it into pastors.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
there's that.
I have heard so many stories over the years of people saying the exact same thing. Grocery store, at a friend's party, something. And either they're wearing like a Rust City hoodie, like they're wearing something that is like our church, or that's on their car, a decal on their car, which is a whole nother kind of basic local marketing thing that we do, where we print out free decals and put them on people's cars every year if they want them on their cars. And we just try to saturate the community with them, including people who, like my wife, who cuts people off in traffic. She doesn't want a decal, but she needs one on her car, because it keeps her from driving like a
Two,
psycho.
3, 4.
But those conversations happen, and what we hear more than here's what I never hear. I never hear, "Oh my goodness, you guys have that really good looking redheaded pastor who preaches really well." I never hear that. Okay, that's never come
You
out of my
should.
mouth.
You
I should,
should
but
hear
I
it
don't
more
hear that.
often.
We really don't hear like, "Oh, you guys have great music," even though I think we really do have great music. I'm very proud of our music in the right way. Like, they really put out a great experience for people. We rarely hear about our Sunday morning experiences, even though I would say, and I'm just trying to be really honest here. I think pound for pound, they're as good as anybody in what we do. Okay. Like, they're good. They're
Oh
quality
yeah,
Sunday morning experiences. We never
absolutely.
hear about that. That is not what people tell. When they say, I talked to somebody and they said, "You're that church who does," and it's always an outreach thing that we do.
Yeah,
You're that church that's always doing stuff in the community. And I'm like, guys, that's a great thing for us to hear, that people think that don't go to our church. Let's
yeah,
keep adding gasoline to that fire. And even with us, some of our marketing strategies is always with you guys, like putting out what we're doing in the community more than how great our Sunday mornings are.
yeah. Well, let me ask you this, and we need to land the plane here in a minute. But, and of course, I think you said there's been maybe some flops. Maybe you could share one
Yeah.
of those with us, because
Oh, yeah.
I was telling you earlier, man, nothing worse than a lot of ministry guys getting together and everybody just talks about how great everything is. I was
Right.
always like, wow, does no one else have any problems? Everything just goes great for everybody, and it turns out we just weren't sharing what was going wrong.
Right.
Um, but one question before that, I was part of a church, and in the beginning we were really strong with community outreach. We were doing a lot, and this was in it's like 2005, and then we had a lot of our. It was a church plant. A lot of the people involved were like builders and real estate agents and stuff, and so 2007, 8 came and really hurt our budget, and so there was I think there was a budget issue with funding some of those projects, but there was also, to me, it felt like we were just kind of, I don't know if we just got tired. We just lost momentum in doing that. So I guess my question would be, how do you guys not lose steam? How do you keep that front and center? This is a core value. I mean, I know you can say that and you can repeat it, but how do you keep everybody excited and involved?
Well, I believe in less is more. And so you do less things, but you do it with more impact.
Hmm.
So instead of being like, every month we got an outreach, you're like, bro, this is a great way to burn out. So
Yeah.
I would challenge a church today, if they're making their calendar, I would circle 2 times, maybe a spring, maybe a summer, maybe a fall, maybe a winter. So it's like a
Hmm.
quarter 1, quarter 3, quarter 2, quarter 4, and say,
Hmm.
hey, what's something that we can make? No, we're not marketing anything else. We're not advertising to our church. Do this and sign your kids up for camp, and do, how it gets lost in announcements, which we can do a whole podcast on how much I hate announcements. That's a whole nother conversation, because I think that we teach our people to be stupid instead of teaching them to find better avenues to learn the information. But that's a whole nother conversation. But you have one big thing, and that big thing is a vision cast. It's not an announcement. So when we talk about a big outreach we're doing, I'm not on stage going over the logistics. Guys, just know, be here at 6:15, and the first wave of people are going to have a conversation with this leader. Hey, where's Tracy? Tracy, come up here. And I am
Yeah.
casting vision to why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking you to sign up, and then we're going to give you that information digitally through email, through text, through a leader getting a hold of you, whatever it looks like. But I'm casting vision for the why, not
Yeah.
the what. And so by building that for time, what you're doing is you're getting, think of it like a fire. You're trying to get it hot. You're trying to get
Yeah.
that fire roaring. And so you're trying to get in your people's hearts. This is the most important thing we're doing in quarter 2 is this outreach. So my
Yeah.
challenge would be pick 2 that are reasonable. And then also, if it's good, and this is going to sound harsh to someone who doesn't hear my heart, if it's good enough, outside people will pay for it. So if you're worried about your budget, like, well, we can't afford this. If it's a good enough event that is so inspiring to the community, we rarely do an outreach that we pay for out of our general fund. It's
Yeah.
always partnered with a local organization that is a for-profit organization wanting to partner with a nonprofit to execute it.
Yeah.
It's shocking how much money we raise to do
Wow.
what we already want to do. So we
Yeah.
talked about, like, you guys in '07 having this budget issue. I would immediately work with the church and say, no, 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 no. There are organizations out there that have dollars to burn in this area. Why
Right.
not connect them to you and what you're doing? And sometimes they send their people out too to volunteer at it, which we
Yeah.
have experienced many, many times.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. Like I said, our last Give Back Before You Kick Back event, I think we had 5 key sponsors in 5 different areas of it that paid for everything and literally put more money in the bank for us to do other projects down the road.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. That as well should be another podcast on
Yeah.
how to get other people to fund your ministry outreach in your
Well,
community.
outreach for real. Like, nobody wants to fund your light bill, dude. I got to tell you, nobody wants to fund
Exactly.
your utilities, but people
But
want
they'll
to
feed
fund
some people.
your outreach.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, now that you say that, I don't see it happening with churches around here, but there's some really good parachurch community based ministries working with foster kids, victims of childhood trauma and stuff. And now that you say that, they're doing their outreaches and their fundraisers, and the banks and the insurance agencies and all those guys, they're always sponsoring it. And you're exactly right. They send 5 or 6 people out there, and I think their heart's in it, but they also need to show on social media that they're involved in the
Well,
community.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
And they have an
And
earmark amount of money they have to give
they
away.
got to spend on it.
Yeah. So you
Why
got to
not?
think about that. Why not with the church? So
Exactly.
I'll give you my horror story. It involves a bank. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
So perfect. Okay, so we partnered with a local bank to buy a house from the land bank, which, if you don't know what a land bank is, the county owns houses that were seized, and you can buy them for, like, the taxes owed on them. So we decided to do a 1-week big project where I had about 700 volunteers. I had a lot of sponsors, including a huge bank, write the bill. We bought the house off the county for $1. And then we remodeled this house all week, and we are going to give it away to a family in need that
So it's
needed a
like
home.
extreme home makeover.
It's
Rush
extreme. I mean, dude,
version.
shave my beard, give me a soul patch. I'm Ty Pennington. I'm like, move that bus. That's exactly what we're doing.
Move that church van.
Move that church van. Okay. So what's the most beautiful part of the story is we picked a couple. They were living in a trailer with no heat, like basically like a camper trailer. It was about to be winter here in the north, which is really bad. They go to our church. They volunteer. They volunteered on the project multiple days, not knowing they're going to get the house at the end.
Okay.
Bro, I have the press. I have everything. This is one of the best stories I could ever tell, and it became an epic failure. Okay, we're going through it. The last day, I have 700 people on the block, news, everything. They're in the crowd. We have a handler with them to get them. We say, hey, the house is done. I mean, people have been working 24/7. The house is done. We're ready for you guys to meet the family. Are you ready to meet the family? People are cheering, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, the energy is just palpable. I go, come on in. So the house goes, when you walk in the house, you go into this big living room. We put a picture of the family on the mantle. They don't know yet. They're getting this house. They're one of the first 10 or 15 people coming in, because we want to make sure then everyone can greet them afterwards as they're like, right? We have cameras on them. This whole thing is set up. They come in, they see it. Tears, sobbing, hugs, children. You know what I'm saying? Bro, I mean, you could not be a better moment, right? You're like, yes, yes. Dude, all you people go through. We have a huge block party at the end of it. I mean, dude, I ride off into the sunset saying, like, nailed it. Like, just could not have gone any better. 2 weeks later, somebody sends me a Facebook Market advertisement. They are selling the house for $5,000. It's the worst. They put the house up for sale, sold it for $5,000, and like moved and like got like divorced or something, bro. It was the worst situation.
Oh my God. I thought you were going to, okay. I thought you were going to tell me they just didn't accept it or something that but
Oh, they flipped it. They
this is
flipped it for a
worse.
quick 5 Gs.
$5,000 when they could have, this was I mean,
Free.
they could have sold it for, I mean, it was
I
probably
mean, a lot more. I mean, let me be
appraised
clear.
for,
Brand new remodeled. I mean, beautiful landscaping. It might have been it was in a part of town that was like growing, but it wasn't like dangerous, but it was like, it was like a working class community,
yeah.
right? But 5 grand. They just sold
Wow.
it. They left our church. They didn't tell anybody. It was like one of those moments where you're like, if I could just go hide underneath a rock right now, I would just go hide underneath a rock.
Oh my gosh.
People didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. So what's funny is we talked to an agency that does this on a regular basis, and they told me, they basically said, rookie mistake. It's happened to us. There's a process that you go through to make sure that they're really going to live in the house. You don't give it to them for a multiple amount of time. And if they act funny, you kind of take them out of the house and you give it to another family in need, and they have a certain amount of time in it. And then once they've proven that like then you give them the deed. I was like, your heart's in the right place, your head's not, and you're just like, I mean, that was years ago, probably 10 years
Wow.
ago that happened. But you want to talk about just an epic egg in your face. Oh my goodness. Like I would have gave him $5,000 and just kept the house because it'd been a great rental property. I would have done anything. I mean,
Yeah. So they did sell it. Somebody bought it.
somebody jumped on that real quick, dude.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, here you go, bye.
Here, I'll give you 10. I'll give you 6. Wow. Okay.
Epic fail.
Yeah, but like you said, your heart was in the right place. But dude, yeah, that would make me sick. But hey, you tried. Oh well.
That's at this point, it's one of my ministry statements that many of us probably say. Now this is between them and the Lord.
Exactly.
Okay? It's
Exactly.
not involving me anymore.
They're gonna have to answer for that one day. So that's on them. That's on them. Well, look, man. Real quick, last piece of just if there's a pastor listening, church leader listening, saying, "Hey, yeah, all right, 2025 is the year. I'm getting serious about reaching my community. We're not just going to do whatever we feel like. We're going to do something that really impacts the community." What advice, what nugget would you give them?
So I tell you this: anytime that I go to do anything new, I look for two things. I look for a champion and a coach. Okay. As a pastor, I cannot be the champion and I can't be the coach. But I can be their pastor. So what I mean by that is this: is I need somebody within my church family who's going to champion this cause. They are going to own this and love this and believe in this beyond anything else. Then I need to find an outside coach who I can have them work with and learn from on how we can best practice do this so we don't give away a house that gets sold 2 weeks later on Facebook Market, so that we don't make these epic mistakes. Over the years, I've learned I will not tackle anything new if I don't first, God hasn't shown me the champion and the coach. And so even with us, with marketing with you guys are our coaches. And we have a guy at our church who is a champion to navigate the day-to-day of working with you guys. And it allows me to find out, if something's not working right, I can figure out if we have a coaching issue or we have a champion issue. And I think it's very healthy for pastors to realize you cannot be the champion and you should not be the coach. And so if they need any help in that area, I can point them to some resources. They can find me on social or whatever. They can just send me a message. I respond back like you do. And I can help these pastors realize you have the resources in your congregation more than likely. And then you need to go find the coach outside of your congregation to speak in the culture. And then you guys can learn from that. The most success I've ever had in ministry is realizing I need those two things all the time.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. And I think there are a lot more champions in our church than we realize. And they're sitting there thinking, hey, they've got some skills to offer. They've got some stuff to offer, but they're humble enough not to really just throw themselves at you all the time. And we got to go find them.
Yep.
Well, look, man, I really appreciate your time. It's good stuff. Everybody should go follow Doug on social media. Go buy the book. You can go to douggarasic.com and get the new book there.
New book just released.
Transformative Gospel.
Yes, sir.
And this can be a really good discipleship resource for your church.
The question I tried to answer is, why do people come to church, say to become Christians and don't change? And I wanted to see transformation happen in people's lives. And so we went through a very painstaking process, my wife and I, of defining what elements, what foundation pieces do people need in their life so that they can continue to be transformed by the gospel. And so to me, I've written several books. This is the one I'm the absolute most proud of. And I feel like it's a resource to the body of Christ for new believers or stagnant believers. And we actually won't let anyone be a leader of others until we teach them through this book how to lead themselves. So it's really important to us that people are leading themselves before we ask them to lead others, and that they're transformed by the power of the gospel.
Sweet. Well, we'll put a link to the book in the show notes. Thanks everybody for watching, listening. Thanks, Doug, for being with me, and we'll see you next time.